Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another video. It's been a while since I posted my last video, which was in kind of like an overview of what texture is. I've been super busy and what with Christmas and the new year and stuff like that, I've just not had time. I've been spending a lot of time with my family and stuff like that. So yeah, 2020 is here and going to try and produce as much content for you guys as possible, and hopefully you'll be able to learn something, even if it's just like one guy got in touch and said the way I set out stuff is really cool. So yeah, even like small stuff like that, as long as you're finding it of value and you know find it interesting, it's all good. So yes, today's video is a follow on from the previous video, which was what texture was and a high level overview of what it is. And today we're going to be writing some code, and I'll be talking you through some of the cool stuff that texture can offer. If you've not seen the previous video, I'll put the link to that in the description below. I'll also put a link to Texture's website below, and also a link to the repo of what this project will potentially look like. It's not going to have any interaction or anything like that. It's just so that people get familiar. Well, it depends. If people want to see another Instagram clone video using texture, I'll continue. But it's just going to be an overview of what texture, how powerful it can be, and how the layout specs work, which is crucial. It's really crucial because that's the nuts and bolts of what texture is. It's like kind of like a Swift UI declarative, semi-declarative kind of like layout sort of stuff. So yeah, we'll get into that in more detail in this video and cover a few bits and pieces. So yeah, if you've not subscribed to the channel, please do so, because you'll get updated of when I produce some new content. And if you are finding any of these videos, the previous comic book app production one and the previous texture one, if you're finding any of them, please give them a like. It all helps get the channel to more people, which is really what my intentions are, is to help as many people as I possibly can learn how to make iOS apps. So with that being said, we'll just catch up with where we left off from the previous video. So we'd set up, I've moved the project files around, so I've created a core, I've created this home group, and then inside here we're going to have nodes. We've got a data source file which is empty. We've also got a presentation class which inherits from our base node, which is also empty. So I will just give you a quick refresher on what this base node class does. We wrote this in the previous video. So our base class is just allowing us to automatically manage the subnode. So rather than having add subnode in any of our base classes where we need to add multiple nodes, it will automatically manage that for us. It will just add it for us. We don't have to explicitly say, oh, we want to add that now. It'll just do it. So yeah, so most of our nodes will inherit from the base node, as well as our presentation, which is just going to be our table view. So we'll get our view controller set up now. First of all, we need to declare a variable, and we're going to call this news feed, like so. And we are going to, it's going to be of type home presentation, and we can force unwrap that here because it will just get immediately initialized here. Equals home presentation, like so. And then we need to add this to the self.node, add subnode node, and we need to add it to the view controller just the same way as you would with UI kit and add subview. Then in here we have this self.node. We have this thing called layout spec block. So looks something like this, and it's a closure, and then it has two attributes here, and this is going to be node, and then this is going to be constrained size, like so. And then we're going to say in here, and then we need to return return an AS inset layout spec. So basically this is saying that our presentation, our newsfeed is going to take the full size of the screen. If you had multiple ones, you would adjust them accordingly in this layout spec block. You could use a stack view. You could use a I think it's a background overlay view, spec. There's lots. If you look at Texture's website and look at layout specs, there's a whole array of different ones that you can use. But the majority of the time, you'll use a either an inset layout spec, or a center layout spec, or a stack layout spec. They're the most common ones. So we need to do insets, and then here we do UI edge insets, and that's going to be .0 like so. And then here our child is going to be our self.news feed like that. And if we build and run, that should have I spelled something wrong? Yes. Like so. Yeah, can't spell. That's correct. Yes. So that's succeeded. So this basically is saying, like, I want this newsfeed presentation to take the full screen, and then in here we will have an override in it like so, and then we can create our table here. So we'll do let table equals as table node like that, initialize that, and then table dot allow selection. We need to set that to false because we don't actually want the cells to be selected. And then we also need to set the data source, and we need to call super init like that. So let's set up we've got a class, an empty data source class here, so we can create an initializer for that. So data source equals home data source, like so, initialize that. And then in here, table.data source equals data source. So everything's that's very similar to UI kit. There's nothing really that different in these few lines of code what I've created here. But this is where it will get slightly different here. So we'll have this thing called override func layout spec that fits. And this is basically the Swift UI type style of stuff. So you could create, if you wanted to have your table view to be stacked upon something else, you wanted a header and then a table view below it. So you'd create like a profile page, or like the profile page on Instagram where you've got your header section of your profile and then all the photos underneath, you'd use a layout spec for that. You'd use the layout spec there, but that's the feed, the profile on Instagram's probably like a table view anyway, with a collection view nested with scrolling disabled on the collection view. So here we need to return a AS layout spec. So an AS if we do return, and we need this table to take up the full screen. So we'll do the same process of what we did in our view controller. So we'll do AS inset layout, and then here we'll have this one, and we'll do UI edge insets.0, and then our child is going to be our table. So to make sure that that is working, we'll do table dot background color equals dot red, and it probably won't work because we need to set our data source. So our data source again is the same as UI kit. It's slightly different like wording. Still has to inherit from NS objects the same way as if you're creating your own class, that is, like I am here. It still has to inherit from NS object, and so does the AS table data, AS table delegate as well. Has to inherit from NS object. So in this instance, we're going to have a number of sections, and we're going to return 2. Our top section is going to be our stories that will have a horizontal scrolling collection view, and we also need to do something like set the number of rows in sections. So as you can see, number of sections in table node, AS table node, and table node, they're just replacing what would be a UI table view with table node, and the functions are slightly different wording, but they do exactly the same. So here we're going to do some sort of return section equals 0, and then do an inline, kind of like an inline if. So we're going to return, if we're section 0, we want to return 1, else we want to return 20. So that cover that. And then this 20 will get replaced with the account of the array, for example. I'm creating some custom JSON payload for this, which will get added in another video following this one. So today we're just going to kind of focus on the UI. So we're going to have table, type in table node, and we have this one called node for row at index path, which is the same as cell for row at. So we need to now check to see if the section is equal to 0. Index path dot section is equal to 0, and then we'll just create a cell, AS cell node, like so. You don't have to register the cells like you do in UIKit. You just literally say, I want this to be of type ASL node, and it will just do the business. Then we need to return the cell. So if we're not in section 0, we're going to do let cell ASL node. For now, we're going to do exactly the same, but this will, our cells, we're going to focus on the newsfeed today and maybe look at the stories another day. So so we'll just return cell here, and then in our nodes we're going to create our a cell node. So here we'll create a custom cell node, and we'll call this news feed cell, like so. And we need to AS seal that from there quickly. And this is going to be a class. Of called news feeds cell, like so, and we need to inherit from AS cell node. And quickly, we're going to create another superclass called file, and this is going to be our we're going to call this base cell node. And again, we need to inherit from a async display kit, and basically this is going to be the same as our base node. So this is going to be base cell node, and we're creating this so that we can handle all of our adding to the subnodes, adding our subnodes to the node automatically. So we don't have to worry about it. We'll just literally inherit from this cell node, and all of our views will just get added automatically. It's kind of like, it is kind of lazy, I guess. But if you don't, it's one less thing you have to worry about. Then yeah, you might as well do it. So this is AS cell node, and then in here we need to do override. Oops. Override unit, like so. And then in here we'll call super, and then we need to say self.allow automatically manage subnode, and set that to true. So now in our cell, in this, our newsfeed cell, we need to inherit from base cell node, like so. And then we can override the init method and call super init on that. And that is basically so that we don't have to add the subnodes. So anything now that is a cell or a standard, actually that can go into our core. So anything that's a UI view or a AS display node, which is an equivalent of UI view, we will just inherit from this one. And the cell node, we will inherit from base cell node. I think this AS cell node, if you go right to up the hierarchy, is a part of AS display node, but they behave differently. There's an AS cell node has some additional extras that make it look like a cell rather than just a standard view. So it's always better to just create a base cell node and automatically manage the subnodes from there. So with that being said, we can now create our additional nodes. So one thing I want to add into here is this is part of the AS table node delegate. So we'll create a mark there and just say delegate. And then in here we need to get access to the AS table delegate. I think that's right. Yeah, that's right. And then here we have this thing called func. We have this thing called func table node. We need that to be table node. Oops. AS table node. Constraint size for row at, and then index path and this is going to be index path, like so. And then we need to, this needs to return a AS size range. Oops. like so. This function is really handy because basically what this does is if you populate your cell with items, it will just dynamically update according to the amount of one, items you have in the cell, and two, the amount of padding that you give that last node. This is so handy. You don't have to worry about constraints or anything like this. You just literally throw stuff into the table view cell, and this is exactly the same for collection view. The difference is that this is not called, this would be called collection node, and this would be called collection node, and this would be called AS collection node. Everything else is exactly the same, and this just allows you to create dynamic cell heights without having to do the auto dimensions or giving it an estimated height or anything like that. You just write this function and you return this, and it will just calculate the height of the cell for you. So if you've got a large picture, it will make a bigger cell. If you've got a smaller picture, so it works exactly how Pinterest's grid work. This is how they managed to do it, by using this, because texture is a Pinterest library now, and this is how Facebook were able to do it when they had this library as well. Facebook have got their own methods now of doing that, but that's how they were able to do it natively using this function. So we need an AS size range, and we need to make that, and then in here we need to say it's a CG size. Oops. And we need width. That's going to be we need to make this the cells the width of the screen. So we'll create a width equals UI screen dot main dot bounds dot width, and then here we need to pass in the width, and then height is going to be 0, zero, like so, and then we need to do the same again, basically, like so. But this here needs to be changed to CG float. Great. Is it going to work? Nope. Greatest finite magnitude. Magnitude. I think that's how you spell it. It'll soon complain if I spell it wrong. Greatest finite magnitude. What have I spelled wrong? I'm sure it is. It's just that it has the property. It's just that I can't spell it. Greatest. FINITEMAGNITUDE. Yeah, there you go. Cool. So yeah, this function here is really helpful because it just handles all the way the cells are created. So if we now build and run, we should get our table view with a red table view background. There you go, and that's it, and that's how a few lines of code rather than having to do leading anchors and stuff like that. Yes, I know you can pin it on a storyboard and be done with it, but I hate storyboards. I just don't like them at all. Pinning constraints and stuff like that, I just can't stand them. So yeah, this is a great alternative. If you've watched the previous videos about how we create the comic book app and all the leading anchor and all the stuff that I had to do to achieve that, it's super quick, and this is is so fluid. Once you get it populated with data, is super fluid. So we'll create a couple of nodes, and then we'll save some more for the next tutorial. So our first node we will create is we'll create a header node, I think. So this will be the name. This will be the name. So we'll call it header node. Header node. And we'll call it header node, and this will consist of we go back, get our import class header node. We're going to inherit from base node like so, and then here we need to do our override init like that, and call super. So what is our header node gonna need? So if we look at the Instagram app, let's get a copy of the Instagram up. Google it, Instagram UI 2020. Let's get some images up. So here's a good example. So this is some website I just googled. So if we look at this, we're going to need a circular image, a username, and this ... which I think I might have in an asset somewhere. I can hunt for it quickly, and then we'll have our image. So we can create these two layout specs here. So we'll go. So we want to create something like that. So our header node is going to consist of a profile. We'll call it let profile image like so. Actually, we need to make that var because we need to set that. We're going to have there's this thing called as image profile image. Actually, we'll have a look at the AS network image node. So AS network image node basically has a property on there called URL, and if you remember the SD web image stuff that we did in the comic book app, we had to download a third-party framework called SD web image. Some of you watching this may be familiar with that library, and we had to do all this stuff that allowed us to. It wasn't a massive amount of work. It was one line, but this it allowed us to store the image and cache it locally. AS network image does exactly the same, but you just do profile image.url, so something like this. Profile image.u has a URL attribute. You pass it in the URL, so you do URL string, and then pass in your string there. But it will cache it, and that's it. That's all you have to do. So we're going to make that a network image node. The other one we need to do is we need a name. So we'll say name. Call this name, and it's going to be of an AS text node. So the AS text node stuff, it doesn't have a text attribute, text property on there. It has attributed text, so you have to create an NS attributed string, which will obviously could handle the font and everything for you. But you could easily create a you could easily create a helper class that you could just set text or set the font or whatever. You could easily you create a helper class that would just handle that rather than have to do the attributed string every time. But kind of out the scope of this project, but I can provide some examples in a future video. One of the things I want to follow on once this project's done is create an e-commerce app, but it's all going to be done using texture, so that would be probably a good time to bring that up. The video series after this, we're going to look at Realm, which is a database stuff, is an ORM, and these are all kind of like little tidbits on how the full e-commerce project is going to be built using Realm and texture, and so yeah, that's the reasoning behind creating this video series and then moving on and creating the Realm video series. It's all to lead up to, so that you guys watching it are more familiar with the technology we'll be using, and it won't be so new to you if you've been following along with these tutorials. So that's the thinking behind it anyway. Whether it works, I don't know, but so we need to create a the button on the far left, if I remember rightly. So we'll just call it extras button. I have no idea what that button does, or is rather, not does. And we have an AS button node, and all the attributes from AS button node are exactly the same as a UI button, and that should go away. So cool, that's good. So we're going to have a thing called we're going to have a private function, private func, it's going to be called setup, and then inside of here we need to do a for now we're going to create our background image as our profile image to have a green background. So we'll say profile image dot background color equals dot green, like so. And we also want to provide it make it circular. So this will just have a corner radius. There's no layout or anything like that like you would normally do in UI kit. You just do dot corner radius, and we are going to set this to 35 by 35 inside. So this will be 35 divided by 2 to give us that nice circular image, and then profile image dot style. So there's on the style there's lots of different attributes that you can do to provide your view some styling. This wants to load. It's taking too long. But yeah, Texture's website will have all the different attributes that you can use to add additional styling. So that this needs to be of type CG size. And we need to do that, and we're going to 35 by 35 like so, and then we need to do we need to get an asset in for the ellipse, don't we? The 3 dots. So let's try and bear with me while I try and locate some images on my other desktop. So look at that. Cool. Found some. So we're going to create a new image set, and it's going to be called ellipsis. And then in here, whoops, in here, let's get these, drag these in, boom, done. Cool. And then header node. Then down here, we need to say we need to pass in a black color, I would assume. Yeah, black, that would do. So we need to do let image, and this is going to be of type AS image node tint color modifier, and we need to do dot black like that. And then the other thing we need to do is open and close braces, and this is going to be UI image. We need to tell it what image we want to be black, so that's going to be image, and then initialize that with name like so, and then whatever we called it in our image, our assets folder, like so. So basically this AS image tint color modification block is a for something like that, is kind of using the same method as you would if you want to render render template image, I think it is in iOS, where you'd say always original, and it would tint the color to whatever color you specify the tint color of the button. You don't have to do that. You don't have to explicitly say I want the button's tint color to be black, white, yellow, whatever you choose to. You just write this one line, and then you would say the extras button.set image is going to be image, and then for the control state it's going to be normal, like so. And then that's pretty much the setup for the button, and the profile image is all done. And we need to set a size for the extras button. So extras button dot style dot preferred size equals a CG size. What size do we need to make it? 10 by 10. Yeah, we'll try that, see what it looks like. And then in here we need to call our setup method. So when our header node is initialized, we call this setup method, and that is all good. For one, I'm just going to set the name dot attributed text equals ns attribute string. We will passing just a standard string for now of texture is cool. So yeah, every time this header node gets presented, we'll get a green circle with that text in for now. So now we need to focus on the layouts, the layout specs. So we'll do override func layout spec that fits, like so. And then we need to do our we need to add our left padding for the profile image in the header. So we'll call this left padding, and this is going to be an AS inset layout spec like so, and then in here we're going to do that and that, and then UI edge insets, and we're going to have a 8 from the top, 16 from the left, 8 from the bottom, and 0 from the right. And then our child is going to be the profile image like so. And then in our newsfeed cell, we are going to say that we need to create a header node. Let's type header node like so, initialize. And then we need to override our front layout spec that fits. And in here, this is where we're going to do our stacking. So here we're going to have a VStack, and this is where it gets similar to Swift UI, a stack layout spec like so. And then in here we're going to have we're going to use this one. We're going to tidy this up by doing that like that. So here the direction is going to be vertical. Our spacing between each of the elements that we're going to provide in the children, where we're expecting an array, we're going to have 0. If you wanted padding between each element, so your header node, your image node, and then your like and comment node, you would add just a value there, and that would add a bit of additional padding between the elements. So we want to justify the content from the start, and we want the align items to stretch, so we want them to fill all the available space that we have in the cell. And then we're expecting an array here, so we're going to just provide the header node like so, and that is pretty we want that header node, and that is pretty much everything we need to provide just to get this cell, this circular image to appear. Then we need to return the VStack like so, and then in our data source where we're calling this, we need to call news feed cell like so, and return that. Eventually we'll have a function called populate where we'll actually provide it with proper data from some custom JSON that I'm going to create, but now if we build and run that, we should see some populated cells. Build failed. Why is that failed? Oops, yep. We need to provide return left padding like so. There you go, and that's taken just as Swift UI does. It's taken the full length of the cell until we start providing it with more stuff in that particular cell. If you didn't want that to stretch the full length, where we've provided it with a right value, you would say 100, and if we build and run that will be slightly smaller, but the idea is that you would fill it up with more content in that particular cell to reduce it. So yeah, there's no as you can see there, we've got padding now, but we'll leave it at 0 because we're got this layout spec that fits. We're going to actually add more stuff to it, so yeah, there's no reason for me we'll just leave it at 0. So the next point is we want to use our extra button. So now we want to call this icon spec. So this is going to be the button to the right hand side, the furthest right. So if we pull up our UI page again, it's going to be this button that we see here. That's a vertical one, ours is a horizontal one. It doesn't really matter, it's just to show you how to generate the layout as it were. So here's we're going to create another stack spec. Oops, like so. Tidy this up. Boom. And this is going to be a horizontal, because we're going from left to right, and spacing is going to be 0. And we want this to be at the furthest point. So if you imagine this, we've got our image view, and then we'll have our icon spec butted up to it, and then that would then take the full width of the cell, but we want our button to be at the furthest point. So we'll say the end on this instance. So we want items to be aligned. We only have one, so we want them to be to the right. And then in here, we want to, it's expecting an array, and we're going to call this, say, extras button. And then we need to apply some right padding as well, because we don't want it right tight to the edge. So here we're going to say right padding. And this is going to be an AS inset layout spec like that. Let's add some space there. We're going to do that. And then here we'll do exactly the same as what we've done above, but instead of the right being 0, it's actually going to be 16, like that. And this is going to be 0, and this is going to be 0, and this is going to be 0. And our child is going to be the icon spec, like so. And then our right padding, we need to add this thing called flex and grow. So right padding style dot flex grow equals 1. So let's, hopefully this will load. So basically it's it basically, if the stack dimensions are less than the minimum size, how much should this grow? And then you set the grow factor to 1, and then it will just fill up the available space that's provided. And then if we were to, then we need to now finish the cell, the header node off by going final, we'll call it final spec, and this is going to be an AS stack layout spec of type. This is going to be horizontal. Oops, like so. Horizontal. We're going to give it a spacing of 10 maybe. Justify content at the start, and this is going to be to the center, and then here we're going to create our array, and the first one we need is our left spec, left padding, then our name node, or our name, and then our right padding, like so. And as you can see, you kind of like visually building up the UI by just saying we want our image first. Oops, we need to return our final spec because that's going to have absolutely no impact whatsoever here. Final spec, like so. So now we should pretty much just have built that top header node. There you go. So let's make that simulator a little bit bigger so you can see, like so. Shuffle stuff around. There you go, and that's pretty much it. Now if we go and add our image node directly underneath that, it will just make the cell grow in height. But yeah, that's just how simple it is. Just that little block of code just creates that header node. Then you create your image node underneath, then your like node and stuff like that. So that's just that's a good point to end the video, and that kind of like gives you an overview of how the stack specs work. We'll go into them a little bit more detail. We'll try and get as close to this UI as possible, and we'll implement the horizontal scrolling view in the top section. We'll get this image node where the actual photo of the newsfeed will be, and we'll probably implement something to do with the like, the comment, the share, and the save. We'll create that node and probably like the number of likes. We'll try and create that. But as you can see, like you could, if you just sat down and focused on building an app, you could build this out very, very quickly. And because it's all it's like asynchronous stuff, it's super smooth. So hopefully that gives you an insight into a texture. We'll cover it a lot more. We're going to do some more. We'll probably build out a full Instagram app with some JSON and stuff. I've already started writing the JSON, and like I say, if you want to look at what we're going to produce, look at the GitHub link below. It's not quite finished. It's kind of work in progress. But yeah, this is a really cool framework. I really enjoy using it, and you can make stuff super quick. Yes, you haven't got the preview stuff like you have in Swift UI, but you can easily create UIs very quickly. If I was to build this just by plugging in headphones and coding away, it wouldn't take long at all. It's really, really cool. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and hopefully you're going to follow along with this several part tutorial on how to use texture and build out UIs using texture. If you've got any questions, like I've always mentioned in previous videos, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to make a comment, or any of the forums that I'm in, leave a comment on in there, and I'll be happy to answer them. And if you are stumbling across this for the very first time and not seen any of the previous videos, The playlist to the comic book app that we created from scratch is going to be in the description below, along with Texture's website and the Git repo to the full project of what we are going to be creating in this this app. Excuse me. And yeah, if you haven't yet subscribed, or this is the first time seeing the channel, please click the subscribe button, turn on post notifications, and give this video a thumbs up or thumbs down, depends on whether you like it or not. Yeah, if there's anything you feel that you would like me to cover more about what we've done in today's video, then please let me know, and I'll bolt it onto the next video as well. And thank you very much for watching and giving your time up to watch this video, and I will see you in the very next video. Bye for now.